The conversation surrounding Khamzat Chimaev's ceiling has officially expanded beyond the confines of the middleweight division, with a growing consensus among elite fighters that his destructive style could wreak similar havoc at light heavyweight. The latest and highly significant voice to join this chorus is Reinier de Ridder, a surging middleweight contender and elite grappler in his own right, who has publicly dissected the 205-pound landscape and concluded that Chimaev possesses the perfect toolkit to conquer it. "I think he would do very well at light heavyweight," de Ridder stated, anchoring his analysis in a critical stylistic observation. "His wrestling in a division that is very low on great wrestling, I think he'd do very well there." This endorsement is particularly compelling because it comes not from a casual observer, but from a divisional rival and technical savant who is himself considering a move upward. De Ridder's perspective carries the weight of a practitioner who understands the mechanics of high-level grappling and the specific challenges of imposing one's will on larger opponents. His diagnosis highlights what many see as a potential vulnerability in the current light heavyweight hierarchy, a relative dearth of chain wrestling maulers of Chimaev's caliber. In de Ridder's here, Chimaev's overwhelming pressure, relentless takedown pursuit, and top control brutality would translate seamlessly, allowing him to neutralize the striking power of the division's best by dictating where the fight takes place. Remarkably, de Ridder's analysis arrives almost in lockstep with the recent monumental praise from Jon Jones, who declared Chimaev could win at any weight. Jones specifically named reigning light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira and top contender Magomed Ankalaev as opponents against whom Chimaev would do great. The alignment of these two perspectives, one from the sport's arguable greatest ever fighter and another from a current top-tier middleweight, creates a powerful and unified narrative. It suggests that Chimaev's potential is not a matter of sheer size or power, but of a skill set so uniquely oppressive that it transcends traditional weight class boundaries. For Chimaev, who is currently sidelined with a foot injury before his first middleweight title defense, this external forecasting from his peers only amplifies the immense expectations surrounding his career. The public roadmap for his future is being drawn by the very fighters he might one day face, framing a move to 205 not as a risky leap, but as a logical and perhaps even inevitable expansion of his reign. The collective verdict from Jones and de Ridder posits that the light heavyweight division, for all its knockout artists and seasoned veterans, may lack the specific defensive wrestling infrastructure required to handle the storm that is Boers, setting the stage for a potential championship pursuit that could redefine the concept of divisional dominance in the modern UFC. The once amicable relationship between UFC CEO Dana White and boxing promoter Eddie Hearn has dissolved into open hostilities, marking the first major promotional feud ignited by White's ambitious and disruptive new venture, Zuffa Boxing. With the promotion's inaugural event, headlined by Callum Walsh vs. Carlos Ocampo, set to launch on January 23rd on Paramount+, White is executing his plan to impose a UFC-style, centralized structure on the famously fragmented world of professional boxing. This aggressive incursion has not been met with passive observation from the sport's established powers, and Hearn, the head of Matchroom Boxing, has emerged as the most vocal and surprising antagonist, a shift that has clearly taken White aback. White expressed his disappointment and bewilderment at Hearn's sharply critical stance, noting that among the good guys in boxing, Hearn was one he had long considered cordial. "I was actually surprised Eddie Hearn, I've been cool with him for a long time, at his take on me getting into boxing and his reaction to it. Very negative, very confrontational, which I found weird because it's not his style." This personal sense of betrayal underscores how White viewed their past rapport, making Hearn's opposition feel like a breach of an unspoken industry truce. The core of Hearn's criticism is twofold. First, he has aggressively challenged the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act, the proposed federal legislation that would grant Zuffa Boxing the legal framework to operate as a league with its own rankings, championships, and exclusive fighter contracts, a model that directly undermines the traditional autonomy of promoters like Matchroom. Second, Hearn has publicly ridiculed the financial terms Zuffa has reportedly offered to fighters, positioning White's model not as a savior for athletes, but as a new form of constraint with inferior pay. White interprets this not as principled critique, but naked protectionism. Yes, 100% it's because we're coming to boxing, White asserted, dismissing Hearn's arguments as the defensive posturing of an entrenched incumbent. He framed Hearn's promises to beat Zuffa as hollow political rhetoric, asking, "You've been here for 25 years. What are you talking about? It's like the politician who's running for re-election. Well, why didn't you do that in your last term?" This feud represents more than just a war of words. It is the first strategic clash in White's campaign to reshape boxing's economic and operational foundations. Hearn, as a leading gatekeeper of the old guard, perceives Zuffa not just as a competitor for dates and fighters, but as an existential threat to the promoter-driven ecosystem that has defined the sport for decades. By painting Zuffa's contracts as exploitative and its model as a dangerous monopoly, Hearn is fighting to preserve the very system White aims to dismantle. The breakdown of their relationship signals that Zuffa Boxing's launch will be met not with curiosity, but with fierce, coordinated resistance from the industry's most powerful players, setting the stage for a brutal promotional and legislative war that will define the future of both sports. The UFC's highly anticipated foray into the glamour of the Golden Globes, intended to showcase its new era with broadcast partner Paramount Plus, culminated in a segment that was almost universally panned as an awkward and confusing misfire. In a bid to generate mainstream buzz, strawweight champion Mackenzie Dern and fan-favorite contender Brian Ortega were flown in, walking the red carpet in elegant formal wear before being thrust into a peculiar onstage skit. The premise saw an announcer introduce young actor-presenters by quipping they were so popular they needed extra security from the UFC. Dern and Ortega then emerged, clad in UFC tracksuits and gloves, performing a silent, stern-faced patrol of the stage before wordlessly exiting, their sole purpose being to set up a punchline that never arrived. The execution was immediately met with a wave of criticism across social media, with viewers labeling the moment cringe, bizarre, and painfully awkward. The core failure was multifaceted. Firstly, it reduced two of the sport's most recognizable athletes, a reigning world champion and a former title challenger known for thrilling fights, to the role of silent, intimidating props. They were given no lines, no opportunity to display their personalities, and no meaningful interaction with the ceremony or the actors they were supposedly protecting. This underutilization felt profoundly disrespectful, trading on their reputation as tough while offering none of their actual charisma or story. Secondly, the bit's intended humor was entirely lost. The juxtaposition failed to land as clever or meta, instead reading as a non-sequitur advertisement that disrupted the flow of the award show for both the live audience and viewers at home. For Dern and Ortega, the appearance became a strange footnote in their active careers. Dern, who captured the strawweight title in October, is in a holding pattern, awaiting the announcement of her first defense. Ortega is deep in preparation for a pivotal move to lightweight against Renato Moicano at UFC 326, a fight critical to revitalizing his career. While the red carpet offered a moment of crossover prestige, the onstage segment ultimately backfired, generating the wrong kind of attention. It served as a stark lesson in the challenges of sports entertainment integration. Simply placing athletes on a prestigious stage is insufficient. The integration must feel organic, respectful, and authentic to the athletes' brands, or it risks alienating the core fanbase while baffling the new audience it seeks to attract. In this case, the attempt at synergy highlighted a disconnect, leaving two champions looking out of place in a moment meant to celebrate their arrival in the mainstream. In a career meticulously engineered around provocation, where crossing lines is not a bug but the central feature, Colby Covington has identified exactly one instance where he believes his trademark vitriol missed its mark and ventured into genuine error. The former interim UFC welterweight champion, who has built his entire public persona on delivering ruthless, often deeply personal attacks against opponents, their families, and their cultures without a hint of remorse, has drawn a solitary line in the sand of his own making. That line was crossed not with a remark about a fighter's deceased father or a jab at a nation's political strife, but with a threat made in 2018 against the most influential voice in mixed martial arts, commentator and podcast titan Joe Rogan. This singular admission of regret reveals a calculated understanding of the sport's power structure and the rare figure whose goodwill is too valuable to permanently sacrifice, even for a professional heel like Chaos. The genesis of the incident was Rogan offering Covington unsolicited counsel on his podcast, cautioning him that his escalating verbal war with John Jones, Covington's former college roommate, could escalate beyond rhetoric. In character, Covington fired back with a threat to physically confront Rogan, vowing to slap the shit out of him at their next meeting. Years later, reflecting on a career defined by no regrets, Covington made a stark exception. "If I've said anything that's wrong, probably going after Joe Rogan," he stated, before clarifying his reasoning with a blend of faux contrition and cold pragmatism. "He's gonna get a pass because I got a title fight and a lot of money to make." This framing is telling. The regret is not purely moral, but economic and strategic. Rogan, as the UFC's iconic voice and owner of the most powerful platform in combat sports, represents a gateway to mainstream visibility and fan sentiment that Covington implicitly understands is unwise to permanently alienate. Covington's subsequent informal apology added a layer of personal networking to the calculus. He cited his friendship with renowned bow hunter Cameron Haynes, a close friend of Rogan's, as a factor, saying, "It wasn't a smart move. I let my emotions get the best of me." This is perhaps the most revealing line from a man who claims to operate without emotion. It acknowledges that even within his carefully constructed world of limitless antagonism, some relationships hold tangible, behind-the-scenes value that transcends promotional hype. The Rogan incident stands as a fascinating anomaly in Covington's playbook, a rare tactical retreat. It demonstrates that his chaos is, in fact, not universal or indiscriminate. There exists a hierarchy of targets, and at the very top sits a media figure so entrenched in the sport's fabric that attacking him carries a unique risk of lasting, career-damaging backlash with little compensatory benefit. By singling out this one comment for regret, Covington isn't softening his image, he's displaying a shrewd understanding of the industry's real power brokers and proving that even the most dedicated villain knows when to recognize a king. Arman Tsarukyan is watching the UFC 324 main event not as a neutral observer, but as a strategist mapping the future of his own career, and he has arrived at a definitive conclusion. His interests are best served by a Justin Gaethje victory. The top-ranked lightweight contender has explicitly and repeatedly backed the highlight to defeat Paddy Pimblett, framing his support not as a matter of personal loyalty, but as a cold, logical calculation of fighter psychology and promotional politics. For Tsarukyan, the outcome will dictate whether the road back to a title shot is a straight line or a labyrinth designed to avoid him. Tsarukyan's reasoning is layered with a deep-seated belief in a fighter's code. He draws a stark distinction between the two combatants, asserting that Gaethje represents the kind of competitor who faces challenges head-on, while Pimblett represents one who would evade them. "I want Justin to beat Paddy," Tsarukyan stated. "If Justin wins, he's gonna fight me, but if Paddy wins, he is gonna try to avoid me. Paddy is not a man like Justin." This isn't just trash talk, it's a foundational part of his prediction. He trusts that a victorious Gaethje, as a veteran and former interim champion, would honor the competitive hierarchy and accept a fight against the clear #1 contender. A victorious Pimblett, in his view, would use his newfound leverage in the UFC's desire to protect a rising star to sidestep the grueling, grinding style that Tsarukyan presents. This endorsement is inextricably linked to Tsarukyan's broader, highly cynical critique of the UFC's decision to book the fight in the first place. He views the entire interim title setup as a carefully crafted star-making project for Pimblett, with Gaethje serving as the perfect marketable opponent. Tsarukyan has labeled Gaethje easy money for Pimblett, a revered and exciting name who is perceived to be on the downward slope of his career, thus providing a credible but winnable hurdle. He takes his analysis a step further, arguing that the interim belt itself is a tacit admission by the promotion that Pimblett is not a true future champion. They even gave him the interim title because he's not going to be a real champion, Tsarukyan claimed, confidently adding he can never beat Ilia Topuria. Thus, for Arman Tsarukyan, the spectacle in Las Vegas is a high-stakes preview of his own 2026. A Gaethje win validates a world where merit and toughness prevail, opening a direct path to a high-stakes fight against a respected interim champion. A Pimblett win, however, ushers in an era he fears, one defined by marketable narratives over competitive merit, where the division's most dangerous contender could be permanently frozen out by a champion and a promotion aligned in their desire to avoid a stylistic nightmare. His rooting interest is therefore a plea for a particular version of the sport, one where the path to gold is earned through facing the best, not cleverly circumventing them. In a performance that underscored his enduring elite wrestling pedigree, Colby Covington secured his first victory in any competitive arena in nearly 4 years, dominating former UFC middleweight champion Luke Rockhold with a flawless 12-0 technical fall in the main event of RAF 5. The match was a showcase of Covington's relentless pressure and technical acumen as he systematically dismantled Rockhold from the opening whistle, never allowing his opponent a moment of offensive momentum or a single point on the board. From the outset, Covington imposed his will, attacking Rockhold's legs with a series of committed shots and savvy setups. He built a commanding 6-0 lead in the first period, with Rockhold spending virtually the entire round in a defensive shell, scrambling desperately to avoid exposure. Any attempt by Rockhold to mount offense in the second stanza was swiftly snuffed out. Covington expertly countered a level change with a slick snapdown, immediately spinning to take Rockhold's back and tack on another 8 points in a rapid, decisive sequence. Even when Rockhold managed to return to his feet, Covington remained in complete control, setting up a final throw before locking up a front headlock and securing the last bits of back exposure needed to end the contest early by technical fall. This dominant victory serves multiple purposes for Covington. It breaks a long streak of inactivity and competitive losses in the UFC octagon, allowing him to re-enter the public eye with a decisive highlight reel win. It loudly reaffirms his wrestling prowess that forms the foundation of his MMA success, reminding the combat sports world of his credentials. Most strategically, it provides him with immediate momentum for his next call-out, a proposed wrestling super fight against welterweight legend Georges St-Pierre, whom Covington challenged immediately after his win to determine the greatest welterweight wrestler in history. For Rockhold, the loss is a stark reminder of the gap between elite active wrestlers and those, like himself, who are decades removed from their pure grappling prime, even as he showed heart in battling through to the final whistle against a relentless opponent. In the hyper-scrutinized world of a modern UFC champion, even a moment of intended personal reflection can be instantly weaponized by the public narrative machine. This is the reality Alex Pereira is navigating at the start of 2026, a period defined by rapid personal change and professional uncertainty. The light heavyweight king recently posted a seemingly peaceful image of himself at Hot Springs, captioned with the simple, ambiguous phrase, "I don't know." For a fighter who had just very publicly entered and then exited a relationship with fellow UFC contender Tracy Cortez in the span of barely 2 weeks, the internet had a ready-made interpretation: heartbreak. The post was immediately flooded with comments joking about the short-lived romance, offering mock sympathy and speculating that Poten was engaging in classic post-breakup vague posting. The reaction grew so pervasive that Pereira felt compelled to step into the comments himself to clarify, writing in Portuguese, "It's not about women, it's about peace." His intervention highlighted the intense, often reductive spotlight on a fighter's personal life, where any expression is filtered through the lens of their latest headline. Yet true to form for combat sports fans, the conversation quickly pivoted from emotional speculation to fight prediction. Many began framing a freshly single Pereira as an even more dangerous opponent, with comments like, "His next fight better watch out," and "Break up Pereira loading," transforming personal circumstance into a mythical boost for his violent capabilities. This personal whirlwind exists alongside significant professional limbo. Pereira's desired super fight, a historic clash with Jon Jones, appears to be in permanent stall mode despite mutual interest. Jones himself has stated that UFC CEO Dana White is the obstacle, saying, "Pereira wants to fight me, but I don't think Dana White's going to allow that to happen." The promotion's apparent reluctance has shifted the focus to Pereira's potential move to heavyweight, with rumors swirling of an interim title fight against Cyril Gane instead. Thus, Pereira's 2026 dawns with a dual sense of unresolved tension, publicly navigating the fallout of a fleeting personal relationship while professionally stuck in a holding pattern, waiting for the promotion to decide whether his path leads to a legacy-defining super fight or a dangerous detour for a second championship, all while the public dissects every word for hidden meaning. The devastating fire that gutted the UFC Performance Institute in Mexico City last year represented more than just the loss of a state-of-the-art facility. It was a severe blow to the structural heart of the promotion's ambitious plan to cultivate Latin American talent. The PI was designed as a regional powerhouse, offering promising fighters access to the same sports science, recovery technology, and professionalized training environment found in Las Vegas and Shanghai. Its sudden destruction cast a shadow of uncertainty over the development pipeline for an entire continent. However, a recent update reveals a story not of collapse, but of resilient adaptation. According to reports, the UFC's Latin American development fighters have not been idled by the disaster. For months, they have seamlessly shifted their operations to the Mexico Olympic Center, a high-performance facility that has allowed them to maintain their rigorous training routines, professional structure, and crucial momentum. This relocation is a testament to the underlying strength of the program itself. While the physical PI building remains out of commission, the system it was built to support, the coaching, the athlete support, and the disciplined daily grind has survived. the Olympic Center has provided a vital lifeline, ensuring that prospects continue to have access to partners, structure, and the high-level environment necessary for growth. For fighters chasing the UFC dream, this continuity is itself a significant victory, proving that the foundation of the development initiative is stronger than any single building. In a striking parallel narrative of the UFC's escalating cultural and political influence, the promotion's planned White House event on June 14th has demonstrated a power that seems to bend even international diplomacy. Reports indicate that France has rescheduled the dates for this year's G7 summit to avoid a direct clash with the UFC card on the South Lawn. The summit in Evian-les-Bains was originally set for June 14 through 16, but has been moved to June 15 through 17. While official statements cite consultations with partners, the timing strongly suggests the unprecedented spectacle of a UFC event tied to U.S. Flag Day and President Donald Trump's 80th birthday was the unavoidable scheduling conflict. This incident underscores the event's transcendent status. It is no longer merely a sports card, but a global happening with the gravitational pull to influence the calendars of world leaders. Together, these two stories paint a picture of the modern UFC, an organization capable of weathering a catastrophic setback to its infrastructure in one region while simultaneously orchestrating an event in another, so momentous that it commands the attention of the highest echelons of global politics. Arnold Allen's extended hiatus from the UFC, forced by a significant shoulder injury, has been transformed from a period of frustration into one of intense physical reinvention. The English featherweight contender, who solidified his top-tier status with a gritty decision win over Giga Chikadze in mid-2024, has used his time away to undergo a remarkable physical transformation. Unburdened by the brutal weight cuts and fight-specific training camps, Allen dedicated himself to the weight room, embarking on a sustained strength and conditioning program that saw his weight balloon to a muscular 190 pounds. I was able to do my rehab work, a lot of lifting weights and squatting, deadlifting, and with no fight on the horizon, I was able to eat what I want, Allen explained, distinguishing his added mass from simple weight gain. I wasn't fat, I was like 190 but stacked. This rebuilt physique presents an intriguing variable as Allen prepares for his pivotal return against the dangerous Sean Silva at UFC 324. The question is no longer about ring rust, but about how this newfound power and strength will translate back into the dynamic, speed-based world of a 145-pound fight. Allen must now carefully reverse engineer his body back down to the featherweight limit, aiming to retain as much of the functional strength as possible while regaining the cardiovascular stamina and sharpness required for a three-round war. A victory, particularly a decisive one, is non-negotiable for his championship aspirations. The featherweight landscape has continued to evolve in his absence, with countryman Lerone Murphy surging into title contention and other contenders jockeying for position. For Allen, the fight against Silva is about more than just re-entering the win column. It's a statement of intent. He needs to prove that his time away has fortified him, not diminished him, and that the almighty version that troubled Calvin Kattar and defeated Dan Hooker is now a more powerful and complete threat. Silva, a dynamic and confident striker on his own rise, represents the perfect litmus test. If Allen can successfully integrate his physical upgrades into his slick boxing and underrated grappling, he can instantly reassert himself as one of the division's most formidable puzzles and silence any doubts about his ability to reclaim his place in the title conversation. After a brutal stretch defined by injury, defeat, and another significant surgery, Former UFC light heavyweight champion Jamahal Hill is plotting his return with a renewed sense of purpose and a very specific physical goal. Having not fought since a decision loss to Khalil Rountree in June, his third consecutive defeat, Hill has spent the last several months recovering from knee surgery. While the process is familiar, having previously torn his Achilles and vacated the title without a defense, this latest rehab stint has ignited a different kind of motivation. The forced time away from the gym has, in his words, definitely lit a fire under me, creating a hunger to rebuild not just his career, but his entire physical form. Hill's roadmap for return is centered on a transformation he believes is crucial to unlocking his best self. He openly acknowledges that his physique has not always been at its peak, and he is now dedicating himself to a comprehensive strength and conditioning plan crafted with the UFC Performance Institute. His target is clear and personal. We gonna get rid of the gut, we gonna carve up, we gonna see what that best physique looks on me. This isn't just about aesthetics, it's a calculated effort to enhance his cardio, power, and durability, the very attributes that eroded during a difficult period. For Hill, getting into the best shape of his life is the foundational step to proving that the fighter who dominantly beat Glover Teixeira for the belt still exists, and that his recent skid was a product of circumstance rather than a decline in ability. The light heavyweight division has moved swiftly in his absence, but a healthy and refocused Sweet Dreams still represents a compelling and dangerous addition to the top 15. His return fight will be less about immediately jumping back into title contention and more about demonstrating that his physical and mental rebuild is complete. Opponents like a rising contender such as Alexander Rakic or a fellow former champion looking for momentum like Jan Blachowicz would provide a stern test of where the 32-year-old Hill truly stands. After years of setbacks, his comeback is being built from the ground up, starting with the relentless pursuit of a physique that can carry the championship-level talent he knows he still possesses.